Guten Tag.
So we are in Lucerne. We got here yesterday, but we're going to do a quick room tour of our Ibis budget hotel. That's, how much did we say it was? It's $1,400 for 3 nights total. So I think that was $350 a night. So this is what you get for $350 a night in Lucerne. So we walk in, and we actually are using our Osmo action camera so that we can actually get the room in because it's so tiny. So we walk in. Immediately to our left is a door to a tiny bathroom, literally just big enough to sit down and have your knees not hit the door. And then the door doesn't even have a turning handle. It's so cheap, and it doesn't seal. And then if we walk farther into this interesting room, here is our shower door that has no handle. And the shower is actually reasonably sized. We were quite surprised that it wasn't smaller. I can actually shower. We've had smaller showers. And then we have, for some reason, a bunk bed. And we're not quite sure why, but we think it's because people travel in groups and maybe young people would get these kind of rooms. And then we have a window that sees out to the top floor or the top of the roof of the same building we're in. We're on the second floor. So that's it. If we look back, there's Melody. There's our bed, and it's a twin bed, so that's how big this is. Oh yeah, and our sink. So you can see we've got junk everywhere, but that's just because 2 suitcases and a few things cover the whole room. So yeah, so that's our room tour, and I'm sure we'll check in later. So we're on our first day in Lucerne. We were here for 4 nights. We just did our first night. We weren't feeling too great yesterday. We did our trip from Munich down to Lucerne yesterday, and then we kind of slept a lot.
Yes.
So, and then today, it was also raining when we got here last night.
It was raining quite hard.
Pouring pretty hard. We walked literally a block and a half to get dinner, and we were soaked. So, so we're in our room, and then it's like a little afternoon. We've been taking it easy today because the weather is supposed to be on and off rain. It's kind of sketchy, so we're just going to walk in the town and then see what goes on from there. And then hopefully we can get into the mountains or some kind of hiking in the next couple of days. The weather's not going to be great until this weekend, so we're playing it really by ear right now because it's supposedly snowing where we wanted to go hike. And we're not sure we want to go hike in the snow. So we brought clothes for it, but we'll see. Things might not even be open. So we'll check in later today or tomorrow or whenever. We're horrible at checking in. So maybe we'll check in and we'll probably do some voiceovers for stuff we're doing today.
Yeah.
Bye. Before our intro, we started our day at the local cafe. It was about 3 blocks from the hotel room. After some pretty decent pastries, we headed back to the room and did the intro you just watched. After lunchtime, we crossed the bridge over the tracks and headed into town. We didn't really have anything specific in mind. We were just going to go wander around Lucerne and check out the famous bridge. We weren't too optimistic about getting any photos though, because as you can see, there was both high and low-lying clouds, so the day was very gray. After a little stroll through downtown Lucerne, we ended up at the Chapel Bridge. This is definitely the most touristy spot in all of Lucerne. It crosses the river close to downtown, right before it goes out into the lake. Both sides of the river here are covered in restaurants and shops aimed at tourists. Being in Switzerland, there's never a souvenir shop very far from you, and there's even one here on the Chapel Bridge. Wandering a little ways down the waterfront gives you the second, less crowded bridge that actually gives you a good view of the first chapel bridge. This bridge also gives you a nice view across the water of the Jesuit church. We didn't go in because the doors were closed the entire time we were there, and we have a policy that we don't walk into a church that doesn't have its doors open. After crossing the third bridge down the river, we saw this cool dam. What's really interesting about this dam is they add and remove pieces of wood. You can see them right here, they're almost all the way across, to change the level of the lake to avoid flooding. Those little wood stakes are where they call it the Needle Dam. It's really interesting. There's also a power station on the other side of the river that we'll see in a minute. A couple more blocks downstream from the dam is another bridge, kind of like the Chapel Bridge. It's a little bit smaller, but equally as crowded. By the time we finished crossing the river, it was a little after 2 p.m. and it was definitely ready to go find some lunch. While there were restaurants all over town, a lot of the options were back in the touristy area by the Chapel Bridge, so that's where we headed. We sat on the second level of this restaurant and got a really good view of the Chapel Bridge through the window, as well as excellent food and beer. Feeling re-energized after eating lunch, we decided to walk up the hill from Lucerne to the Museggmauer. The uphill walk looks a little daunting on Google Maps, but it's actually not bad as it's a pretty mellow gradient as you walk through the city. There's only a few steps. When looking at the sign before you enter the first tower, I did notice the visit your own risk at the very end. We thought this was more of a funny thing to put on the sign because what risk could there be in a very popular touristy area? And actually it's pretty steep and narrow inside. The stairs in this part were more like climbing a ladder than it was like going up a staircase. It was also pretty narrow and I had a hard time getting up with my backpack on. After climbing up to the top of the tower, you get out onto the wall and you have some pretty good views of Lucerne. There are a couple more towers to go through and some better views than here, but in general, it's a really nice walk. The second tower you walk into is the clock tower, and it shows some old mechanisms. It's a pretty cool little tower. This is also the tightest tower. As you can see here, it goes from really narrow wooden steps to some even more narrow concrete steps as you go up. The camera doesn't justify just how narrow and steep these steps were, and it was a little bit sketchy considering I'm a bit afraid of heights. It was definitely harder coming down, as coming down the stairs my backpack kept hitting the steps above me because it was so steep and narrow. The wall is closed after the third tower, so in the third tower we just headed down. Just across away from the tower is this cute little farm. Because the goats were so cute and the pigs were so interesting, we ended up hanging out here for a solid 15 minutes just checking out the critters.
Man, I see that. What was that? He's like lost his voice or something. Hi, guy. I don't know. Cute goat.
After heading back down from the wall, we decided to call it an afternoon/early evening and go back to our hotel room and take a break. However, our break turned into a nap and we ended up getting up pretty late. I wanted to check out Lucerne after dark, so we headed out into the main touristy area thinking we could get some dinner pretty late. Unfortunately, it was a little too late for the touristy area and everything was closed when we got there. After stopping by a couple places and realizing we couldn't eat at any place that was closing within the next 30 to 45 minutes, we ended up checking out Google Maps to see what was open very late. Unfortunately, the only things open were the fast food restaurants at the train station, which is how we ended up at Burger King late at night. Because it was so late, the food at the Burger King was actually quite stale and was some of the worst food we've had in quite some time. That wrapped up our day pretty late, and then the next day we get up early to go hiking in yet another gray overcast day.